Let's talk about the state of play first before we talk about private here. Just to give us an idea of private and public healthcare in Kenya and perhaps in East Africa generally, seeing that you're responsible for that whole region.
Right. I think you can't discuss health insurance without talking about the public health infrastructure. In recent times, we've seen the government invest in improving the public infrastructure. And consequently, we have seen the government itself take up a medical scheme which was initially mooted to be taken by the private health consortium, but eventually was given to the National Health Insurance Fund. So we are in a state where the market understands the need for health insurance. The differentiation has been a challenge, but now with the government buying health insurance for 200,000 employees, the awareness is out there in the market.
If you look at talking about government buying it, it assumes that there is a service for those employees. I suppose at the worst level, you could have a state sector which is available to everyone, which is free and probably not very functional. We find in South Africa a lot of our state sector is just not functional. So if you're giving insurance, presumably then there has to be a quality product available to service that market. So what is the state of the pharmaceutical companies, the medical aids and the private hospitals in Kenya?
Excellent question. We've seen providers, healthcare providers, hospitals and clinics that have come up to take that particular space and compete with the government hospitals. Because we are leaving the government hospitals to take care of the indigent and the people who can't really afford to buy insurance. Government employees can afford to buy insurance now. So there is a platform that can take care of that. The service provision is available.
So from your own experience, Resolution Health I know of in South Africa, and I'm not quite sure what the relationship is between you and the South African version of Resolution Health. Is this an area where a company like yours sees huge growth opportunities? Are we looking at a market that will grow by 15, 20% a year?
Oh, that's very low. The opportunity, I'm looking at the 40, 45%. I know it sounds very high, but for example, we grew at 42% last year. So it is possible. Now, and with higher awareness, and please remember the market penetration rate here is about 4%, which we have grown in the last 10 years from 2% to 4%. It can only get better. We recently had a strategy paper written to improve penetration of health insurance from the 4% to 92% in 7 years. And I see the private health sector taking about 15% of that market share. So it is possible. The market is huge.
What lessons have you learned from South Africa which are applicable there, and what have you found isn't applicable? I suppose we assume that all medical aids work in the same way wherever they are in the world, and of course they don't. We have particular ways of doing things here. Yes. There are particular big players who've brought innovations in. What are the differences?
The major one is, in your case, really, medical aid is not insurance. You're not transferring risk from an individual to an insurer. But you have in South Africa, you have what is called prescribed minimum benefits, meaning you cannot exclude, you cannot underwrite. For example, you can't take money from a client and exclude HIV/AIDS or exclude a pre-existing condition. In Kenya, you can, but market forces are driving us to make sure that it's an all-inclusive cover. You can't exclude a lot. Unfortunately, our premium rates are very low in comparison to what you get in South Africa.
Looking at the systems and the management, we were talking earlier about our national health insurance scheme, which is very ambitious and going to take a long time to implement. There are some who say it can't be implemented given the skills available and what it will cost. But a lot of the problems in health, certainly in South Africa, and one suspects in Africa generally, are not to do with whether there's a doctor or a nurse available, although that might be a problem. It's about how you manage the facilities. So it's a management issue rather than a health issue. What is the sort of general level, both in the public and your small private sector, in terms of simply managing everything and the systems that support all this?
Right. If you look at the rural areas, people still have to walk very far to see a doctor. So a nurse-based model would work, and there's been initiatives in that direction, both from the private sector and from public sector. I have no doubt about the quality of service that you can find in the urban areas and in the small towns which are in the rural areas. So I don't think we are in the position where we can get national social health insurance that will cover everybody, but I certainly feel we can cover 80% of our population with the sort of quality where a single clinical officer with the support of a nurse-based model and a bigger referral to the major hospitals in the cities.
A lot has been said about the African diaspora, where countries lose their best people, they go overseas, they study, and why shouldn't they if they want to travel, and then they don't come back. And earlier on we were talking on this program of a dentistry brain drain from South Africa. Dentists are leaving and not coming back, we don't produce enough. Do you have that issue? Do you have Kenyans who qualify and then go?
It was happening in the early 2005. We had our best nurses and our best consultants leaving, but it seems to be turning the other way around because of the investment made in this particular health sector. People are coming back. Only this morning I met a consultant heart surgeon who's been in the UK for the last 21 years, and he's come back to establish base here because, as you might well know, the majority of open heart surgeries in Kenya we actually take them to India and to the UK.